Time to answer some interesting Patreon questions about content. First one, the most predictable question ever. After your Art of War series, do you intend to do videos on any other theoretical military text? Or even a brief history of military thought? I realize that military texts aren't as easy to cover as Sun Tzu's Art of War, especially on war. But I think they deserve a little explanation in order to be understood rather than quoted. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you. And yes, actually the Art of War series isn't finished, but to my dismay, it was very unpopular. So there will actually be chapter 6, which is right now in the works, soon out there. And I, to a certain degree, probably will cover On War, but I read On War from Kriege from Clausewitz in 2001 during my army time and afterwards. I actually remember reading it on my first day in my university town, or the town where I studied, in Salzburg, on 9/11. I think it was my first day there. I went to a pond, read a bit of On War, and then was tired, lay down, and then a friend called me that a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. So, and I think I finished it around, my first semester. The good thing was, since I read On War, which was quite hard to read, all the introduction texts were basically a piece of cake. At least for history, not for computer science. It didn't help much there. So yeah, I probably cover On War, but if I do, very likely only in a vlog. And to what degree, I don't know. And I also need to know, maybe if I read it now, it's quite easy. It could be, because we had far harder texts later on in university. And I also was, during the army time, my mental capacity was rather limited. So it really depends also if... So always the issue with getting views and everything, that to a certain degree I have to make certain arrangements for what kind of stuff. At the same time, I have so many books now, and I get more books at the same time, that I often skip projects. For instance, I plan to do an organizational video on 1944 tank division since more than a year now, and it didn't happen so far. And I think last year I did in total 50 to 100 videos. So you can imagine that if I skip that, although it's on my list since more than a year, yeah, this is always the issue. But thanks to the vlogs, where I can produce videos rather fast, the chances are way higher now. And also I want to take a look at it again at some point. So I hope this answers your question. And the next one is, would you be willing to get a bit more into pre-Napoleonic material other than Frederick the Great and the 7 Years' War? For instance, War of Spanish Succession, 30 Years' War, etc. This is a very interesting area of military history, and at the moment it's not well served on YouTube other than by rather clickbait-heavy battle channels, in my opinion. Thanks. Thank you for your support. And yes, there will be, actually, the vlog really helps in this regard, because as you probably already noticed, I did now something on the 19th century. And in my technology and warfare video, I also used a book about late medieval gunpowder stuff from Bert Hall. I think it's called Warfare in the Renaissance, Warfare and Technology in the Renaissance or something, which I'm currently still reading. And so I'm getting, usually I try to establish a certain bridgehead in certain areas and then expand from this. So also the Napoleonic cavalry video gave me a better understanding of Napoleonic warfare again. I already took a look at Napoleonic warfare first time in 2016, I think, and then yet again. And so, and from these areas, usually it's mentioned what happened before or afterwards. So you, to a certain degree, you can establish the connection. And for me, everything is about understanding. For me, knowledge without understanding is, it's a waste of time, basically. So, and I always want to connect different areas and the different eras, and to get a whole understanding how things developed, what are the main differences between certain aspects. Also, like I did the video with for the podcast with Bismarck on the difference between Eastern and Western Front air warfare, because they usually follow certain rules or certain systems that make sense if one looks at the requirements or limitations or whatever of the time, or the theater of war. I mean, that wasn't at the same time. So 30 Years War is very, 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 very certain that it will come at some point. I know there's a great resource out there in German, which I have already on my list. The main thing which is sometimes holding this back is timing issues and everything. So that if I read into something new, it takes way longer. And sometimes I don't have the time, especially since I spent too much time on visualized videos this year so far. The latest one reached 45 hours, the video on Versailles. So War of Spanish Succession might be very unlikely so far. It's not really my area of expertise, and I also don't have any books yet or any books on my list for buying that stuff. So this might change, but for the 30 Years War I have already in Deutsche Militärgeschichte quite a lot in there. And also I have a book on my list which should provide very good information, because it's up to date and it's basically a textbook. So, which is a very good combination, and also the table of contents from what I saw in Amazon preview also was rather excellent. So basically the main idea right now is to finish Bird Hall and to get all the gunpowder stuff in my mind. I think it probably ends basically before the 30 Years War. So once I completely digested that book, I probably will get the 30-Year War book and do some initial videos on it, and then slowly expand. So, well, I hope that answers your question. It was quite rambling on my part. Thank you for your support, and see you next time. Bye.